today's comedians, I mean, you mentioned Ed Byrne and people like that. Do you think they'll be around in 50 years' time?
There's no way of knowing. I mean, Ed Byrne was very sweet. Because my grandson, Tom, absolutely is a stand-up nut. He has seen everybody, he has read everybody, he is, right from Bill Hicks, right, I mean, he's a real knowledgeable thing about comedy. He sees everything, you know. Last Saturday he was up seeing us, he slipped off to Croydon to see the Borat film, you know, so he's really far too fast for me, I'm afraid. And last year, because we got a house in East Lothian, so I go a lot to the festival, and he booked about 10 pairs of tickets because he was going to be joined by a school friend who sadly let him down. So I went to 3 of them with him, and I went to see Ed Byrne. And it is a funny procedure for me because the festival is very exciting, but it's very difficult for a well-known face, a well-kent face, to get into the theatre with the crowds and the rushing, the queuing and everything like that. So I have to make a prior arrangement to get what is called walked in, which is lovely, because the moment the act in front finishes, I'm walked into an empty theatre. So Tom and I were walked into this empty theatre and sat there chatting with each other, and the two, I'm not going to remember their names now, the boys who went before Ed Byrne were 2 brothers who do a sort of Cirque du Soleil act called the Career Brother, something anyway, and Tom had seen them, so he said, that's them tidying up the act, that's them, well, that's that one sweeping up, he's one of the brothers. Then this boy walks across the stage, his hair in a pigtail and a black corduroy jacket, drinking a plastic jug of beer, and Tom said to me, that's Ed Byrne. I said, really? Ed Byrne checking up a few things, still sipping his beer before the show, this is, and he came back again. He said, that's Ed Byrne. Then Ed Byrne talked to the little lady who'd walked us in, and I could see him saying, is that my imagination? Or is that Ronnie Corbett? She said, that is Ronnie Corbett. So he came up and played. I said, well, it's very nice of you to come, and I introduced Tom then. And he did his act, and it was wonderful, terrific. And at the end, he walked off, and he came back and took his call. He said, I have to say, I was a bit nervous tonight, and I hope it was all right, because one of my heroes was in. Well, I mean, that really makes me tears running down my cheeks. They're nearly doing now. As I remember it, lifted his hand to me and walked off. And of course, Tom thought, God, that's wonderful. So, I mean, you know, that is moving, really, when somebody contemporary like that, as clever as that, acknowledges the amount of work one has done a lot of work, of course, I forget that. God knows how many Two Ronnies we did, and when we did the sketchbook last year, the Christmas show got huge figures, you know.
We're back with our remaining moments with Ronnie Corbett, and we've got to talk about the Two Ronnies. The new book's in the stores now, and it is tremendous. It's a great insight into your life together, because I have to say you are one of my favourite comedians, as I told you earlier, and your skits together are just fabulous. And I'll tell you my favourite too.
Yes.
The one where you're on the phone.
Oh, yes.
You're reading out the shopping list.
Yes. No.
How do you manage to do that, to listen to him but not make it look as if you're listening to him?
I know. Well, that's part of our job, I suppose. Written by David Renwick, that was. I always never know whether to say David Renwick, because that's a Scottish way of saying it, but I think David said Renwick, who wrote quite a lot of my chair spots as well. Yes, that is very good. Curious enough, I did it. It is very televisual. I did it in a Royal Command once with another actor. Ronnie didn't want to do it, or wasn't in the command with an actor. We really struggled with it in the theatre because it was too small for a big house, you know. But it is a good sketch. Yes, I'm glad you enjoyed that. What was the other one you were going to mention?
The other one is where you're dressed as women with the pots and pans singing the song.
Oh gosh, oh yes, right, yes. And of course we had to test various pans and various things to get the right sound, the right key, yes.
The one thing that struck me about that was you've got a live orchestra behind you, so not only had you got to worry about what you were singing, what you were playing, but you've got to worry that you were in time with the orchestra behind you as well.
Yes, and remember the words, of course. Although we read a lot of that stuff. You see, we used to do that the Saturday night before. We were very skillful, if I may say so, at reading stuff. Otherwise you couldn't have done it weekly. My chair spot, was all down on Autocue, all worked out properly, and I kind of knew it. I was familiar with it. I wasn't staring at it like a startled rabbit. I could take my eyes off and play about with bits, but basically the text was there, so I didn't have to worry about it, and that was a great bonus to Ron, and all his monologues were all done on the same way on Autocue.
For anybody who's listening to this now who wants to be a comedian or get into the kind of thing that you did with the Two Ronnies, what is the greatest skill? Is it your memory or your ability to keep up with what's happening around you? Because that's what you see with a lot of people now, that they're not quite up to the material they're delivering.
No, you have to be certainly extremely comfortable with what you're saying, and that takes a few weeks with a new bit of material, and then you get to a stage where you have little chunks that you may or may not go to, and then you sort of start to mess about. When I really mess about, or really lost my way, or really wondering, I'll pick up something and I'll do a bit about what I've picked up. So, and that's what people, of course, even though I'm lost and panicking, they laugh at it because they don't believe I really am. I think I'm putting on the panic, but it's actually there.
Ronnie was such an interesting character and such a humble man. Whenever I saw him interviewed, which wasn't very often because he didn't do any, he didn't like taking any kind of praise whatsoever, and it was as if the genius came to him by accident and he didn't want to talk about it.
No, that's right. I think probably he felt that by talking about it, it would elude him, it would escape from him. And also it's very difficult to define what other people see in you as being funny. To start talking about yourself in that kind of rather... self-possessed way is in itself kind of unattractive. To try to define what you do, say, what do you, if people say, what do you think people like about you? Say, well, I think people adore me because I'm tiny and I've got brown twinkling eyes. So you have to, and Ron certainly, of course, he didn't like being introduced because he didn't really know who he was as himself, as I say in the book. He couldn't even, his local garden fete, he couldn't open in the summer. He's all right if you say, well, you come along as, with a moustache on and a big trilby and come along as the local squire. He could do that, for 8 to 10 minutes and open the fete in that way. But unless he was a character, he didn't feel he was anybody, which is wrong, of course, but that's what he felt.
Where do you think that came from, that lack of wanting any publicity? He goes against everything that is about being a celebrity, isn't it? Most people are self-congratulating and look for the kind of approval and press.
He was naturally, reclusive, and as I say, he didn't know who to go out as. That was part of it, He was this actor, very funny character actor, and unless he had something to put round himself, he would sooner be, living quietly.
The other interesting thing was, it's a well-told story, but he would even send stuff in as a different person because he didn't want people to judge him on being Ronnie Barker. He wanted his material to speak for itself. That's right,
yes, the Gerald Wiley story. It sent excellent stuff in, and all of us wondered who this man was, and he said it was Peter Reed, who was Ronnie's agent. Ronnie said, I think this chap is one of Peter's clients who probably writes novels or plays building up this picture of this man, and he doesn't want to know who the author is, and we all wonder who it is. And Tom Stoppard very sweetly said he was very pleased to be found in the list. He was one of the people who was being punted around, and Frank Muir was another one, and there was a huge list of possible people who were writing these sketches. And then on the Sunday when we were doing Frost on Sunday from Wembley in the afternoon, Ron came at the last show of the series. Ron came into my dressing room and said, I want to tell you, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he said, I want to tell you before anybody finds out tonight when it's going to be revealed, but I am Gerald Wiley. God, much, my God. So we had this Chinese meal, and, there was a blank chair, and this Gerald Wiley was going to sit in it. And Ronnie stood up when the food came on the table, said, I have to tell everybody that I am Gerald Wiley. And Barry Cryer said, nobody likes a smart ass. That's how it all happened.
Do you think he secretly chuckled inside and was having a bit of a laugh at everybody else?
Yes, he was, yes, because he tempted me to make an offer for one of the sketches, that he'd written, and said, my agent rang up Peter Reed and said, he wants £3,000 for it. Ronnie said, that's far too much. He got me at it. Offer them $1,000. Then the message came back, said, Gerald Wiley's offered you the rights of the sketch in perpetuity because of the way you've done them. So he gave it to me anyway.
It's all a fun game, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What was he like as a friend?
Well, he was a very, very dear, sweet, darling friend, really, and really quite, what would I say, not rustic, but he was quite everyday, he was very, very, the everydayness, mind you, masked a very, very clever brain, but outside himself he felt everyday, but inside he was brilliant.
You must miss him very, very much.
Yes, I do. Of course I do, yes. We see and speak to Joy quite a bit. And, of course, my house is stuffed full of things, little bits of his handwriting or pictures or books or scripts.
And I suppose that's the greatest legacy of any comedian's life, that you'll be on TV in 30 years, 40 years' time from now.
Yes, well, yes. Yes, perhaps, indeed, yeah. Very nice.
You do a lot of interesting things, like you did extras a few weeks ago with Ricky Gervais.
Yes.
I think this is a very smart move for you to make, because you're making yourself contemporary every time you do something like this, and it keeps you with this new generation, and it keeps people going back to the Two Ronnies, and everybody's therefore remembering you as a current comedian, not as an old-fashioned comedian.
No, that's true. That's partly... Well, I mean, I respect them, of course, all, and, of course, the other thing is I see them very often before they have become well known through my Edinburgh Festival visits with the house in Edinburgh. I mean, I saw Harry Hill, and I saw Patrick Marber doing stand-up, and I see, Ed Byrne, as I say, last year, but going back, Rob Bride and League of Gentlemen, they all talk about whispering. I think, here Ronnie Corbett's in the audience, and they all wait to hear the I laugh. And so I sort of... Not befriend them, but they know I respect them before they become well known, really. So, and then I got this message here: Ricky Gervais wants to speak to you. He wants to. Well, I thought it's very nice. What is it? He said, I want you to do that. Well, I'm very flattered. He said, well, you don't know what I want you to do yet. And he told me what he wanted me to do, and there was some discussion in the family. My wife thought, should you be doing that? And the doctor said yes. So it was lovely to do it, actually. And it wasn't too graphic, but it was funny when I saw it, I must say. And I'm on Little Britain's Christmas show. I'm not telling you what I'm doing on that, with bubbles. So as you say, I try and keep myself in the picture.
I'm very blessed because I get to meet people like you who've been doing the job for a long, long time, and everybody I speak to speaks so highly of you, and they love you and admire you and adore you, and that's so rare in this business. And congratulations on everything you do, and thanks for being in our hearts, because the Two Ronnies are just so loved, and it must be great to be a part of that.
Well, it is. Yeah, well, I've been very lucky, and thank you very much.
Your new autobiography is in the stores now, The Two Ronnies, and it's a great read and a brilliant insight into two people who we really know very little about, although we know so well. Ronnie Corbett, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you very much for coming.